Greetings and welcome back to Doctor Who Revisited, where I go through every single episode of Doctor Who from 1963 all the way to 2022 and review them. And this one is The Claws of Axos. Okay, so first of all, it's another really solid Master story. I like it. I don't love it, but in a season that has the Master in every single serial, you're bound to get better ones and less good ones. And I don't think this episode is bad by any stretch of the imagination. I really do like it a lot. It's in the lower half of the episodes featuring the Master in this season in particular. First of all, I'll say that I love the monster design of the Axons. First of all, the ship itself, the Axos itself, it's a great looking ship, both exterior and interior, and I get it, it's very cheap looking by today's standards. It's the effects that they had at the time, that's really what they had to work with. But I mean, this is really where you have to use your imagination, okay, and sort of turn on this Photoshop filter in your brain and just imagine these 2020s visual effects budget, okay? And if you really kind of do that, it helps out a lot. I love the giant eyeball running around. I love the way the floor looks. I love the different tentacles all coming out of the walls. And again, it's people in rubber suits doing this, like flapping their arms around. It looks stupid and silly and ridiculous, but like I said in the previous one, that is the staple of Doctor Who visual effects, or rather the clunky visual effects of the time. I mean, even in this episode there's a lot of moments of just the clunky set design and visual effects. I think at one point you go inside the TARDIS, which is a whole other thing in and of itself, because you get to see the TARDIS interior in color for the first time, but you see the TARDIS doors sort of waddling, or rather going in and out of themselves during the episode. And yeah, it's just a thing that we're going to have to get used to now because of the Doctor Who visual effects. I mean, it's a far cry from the visual effects of the modern series, which in of themselves aren't that great for the most part, but I mean, it is what it is. That's really all I can say about that. So, the ship itself, as ridiculous and as goofy as it looks, I really did like it. I love the design of the Axons in their humanoid forms with the spray-painted golf ball eyes and the wigs and the full-body suits that you can see the zipper in the back when they turn around. It's really funny and ridiculous, and you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. And then obviously there's the other form, the more tentacled form, which it does also look a little bit ridiculous, but it also looks really, really scary because of how it's sort of a mental thing in our heads of like, it doesn't look recognizable. And that's what's scary about it, is because of all these different tentacles and tendrils going around. That's why it scares us so much, is because our brain just can't identify it as a proper living thing because of how it looks. And that's even before you get into the idea that it uses these tentacles to kill people, like stab their tentacles through their bodies, or they have these explosives in their tentacles. So yeah, it's a very scary thing that the unit soldiers have to deal with, and for the most part, they are kind of bulletproof. So how do you even stop these things? And that's even before you get into the idea that they're all just a big hive mind controlled by Axos himself. Axos himself is a really good threat for the Doctor. I love the idea that they just show up offering gifts, bearing gifts I should say, trying to be friendly to us humans, giving us something that they think we want, something that could save our economy. And you know, it's really, really fitting considering when this episode came out, and there's always that big government stooge that takes everything for himself and takes all the credit, and very selfishly wants to use it to further his own gains. And of course, he gets what's coming to him by the end. I love that he does get his comeuppance by the end, but that all is well and good. And then, of course, we get to the Master, which only serves to elevate the story even further. I don't think it's the greatest story for the Master, but what I do really, really appreciate about this story is the approach that they're taking with the Master's character in this episode. It's like, yeah, he sort of made a deal with Axos against the humans and against the Doctor, which really does sort of backfire on him several different times. But at some point throughout this episode, he ends up ditching that idea and starts to team up with UNIT and with the Doctor against Axos. And again, it's the Master. He's never going to be quite fully 100% on your side. He always is going to have an ulterior motive, his own agenda, but to gain his freedom, he helps the people of UNIT, and he does get their full cooperation from the Brigadier and from Benton and from Mike Yates. And I really, really love that. Like, the idea of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, or rather, in this case, the enemy of my enemy is my unwitting ally. So, like, they know the bigger threat right now is Axos, because, I mean, it's able to clone people, it's able to manipulate the environment around it, it's able to send out these walking killing monsters that can blow up the soldiers, so they have to team up. They really have no other choice, and the Master teams up with UNIT, he teams up with the Doctor at certain points in the episode, and I love the way that the Doctor tricks him, or rather tricks Axos into being stuck in a time loop, and I do appreciate that the Master eventually escapes throughout this episode, by the end of the episode. And speaking of the Doctor, there's a really great moment of he's able to recognize the American representative who's been sent specifically to track down the Master. And then again, it's a clone battle. So, like, it's him and the other one who look exactly the same. And at some point, the plot, because of how that fight sequence is organized, you the audience, even start to lose your place and start to wonder who is actually the real one and who is the Axon clone. And the way the Doctor finds out who the real one is when the guy calls him Doc instead of Doctor. And that's really how they find out who the real one is, and how they send the fake one into the Axonite and kill him. So yeah, I love moments like this. I think you need moments like this, especially when you have these scenes of the same person fighting an exact duplicate of him. We have seen it in The Enemy of the World, where in that case you can kind of tell which is the real one fighting who based on the clothes that they're both wearing. But at this point, they're completely identical to one another. So how do you figure out which one is the real one? Like that. And I love that the directors and the fight choreographers use that to their advantage to try and trick us and confuse us, and it almost works on the Doctor himself. And going back to the Doctor and his ulterior motive and agenda, I love that he sort of puts on this guise of teaming up with the Master and Axos to leave the planet to Axos' mercy and just hand over planet Earth to the Axons, while the entire time he's just lying to them and being a double agent, tricking them all into actually trapping Axos himself in a time loop and get away. I really like that.
Well, it's perfectly simple, Brigadier. A time loop it's a time loop. One passes continually through the same points in time. Passes through the same... Yes.
And I love that he can't really properly leave planet Earth because he always ends up bouncing back to planet Earth, specifically to where UNIT is. And I love the line that he says by the end of him being a galactic yo-yo, or some sort of a galactic yo-yo. I like that.
It seems that I'm some kind of a galactic yo-yo.
But yeah, it really does showcases the Doctor's intelligence and duplicitousness, used in a good way. But yeah, it's a really good trait that the Third Doctor has. Because again, I mentioned this in the Terror of the Auton story. He didn't really go to that circus to keep an eye on the Master. He just went there to take the Master's dematerialization circuit so he can get away. So yeah, this is the type of way you always have to look at the Third Doctor, especially during the exile itself. But yeah, I think I've said all I can say about this episode in and of itself. Let me know what you think about this episode, and what do you like it, do you not. And I'll see you some other time. Of course, now the Master has his TARDIS back, and he can basically go anywhere and anywhen. So who knows when we'll see him again? I knows the next serial. So let's wrap this up so we can go ahead and talk about that one. So thank you all for watching right now, and I will see you some other time. Until then, I am the Master, and you will obey me. You will obey me and only me. Hi there! Thank you for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. I'll see you next time.